Hi, I'm Vanessa,
And I'm Mimi.
and we are
The Girls Next Pour. Hey, we actually did it
We
this
did
time.
it! You guys, practice makes perfect.
We've been working on that for weeks.
Weeks. You'd think that we could do that, one time on the go.
Timely.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Welcome back.
welcome.
Hope you had a great whatever holiday just happened because we haven't released these episodes yet.
Yeah, we just had Thanksgiving. So
Yes.
if you're reminiscing on Thanksgiving, hope it was wonderful. If you spent it, away from family,
props.
good for you.
Yeah.
If you spend it with family and you like them, good for you too.
Yeah.
Either way, we're thankful. We're thankful to be here, honestly, and thankful to start this. But,
So what's the topic of the day, Vanessa?
Yes. So today we are talking about creatives being a creative in your 20s versus in your 30s and all that comes with. So for context, I'm 34 and Mimi,
I'm 33.
And so obviously
I had to think about that for a second.
Time's a flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we've gone through our 20s as creatives, and so now embarking on a newish decade, me going into my mid 30s. What does that look like for us? So I think, Mimi, do you want to kind of kick us off with what kind of your story as a creative in your 20s and what that looked like versus now?
Yeah. In my 20s, I very much was afraid to call myself an artist at all. But I did start writing at 22. I started writing when I was 22. I started doing stand up when I was 22. Um, yeah, I started doing all these things in my 20s, but it wasn't until my late 20s, early 30s that I actually felt confident in those things. When you start out like writing for the first time in your 20s, I automatically felt like I had a lot of catching up to do. Like there were people that had, I've been part of my school newspaper. I've been writing books since I was a kid. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So very much like learning how to be a beginner in my 20s. I was a published author by 26.
Wow.
25, 26. Had a TED Talk in my 20s. Traveled the world, did Edinburgh Fringe with a one-woman show in my 20s. There was a lot going on in my 20s. I would say in my 30s, it has slowed down only in the sense that I've learned I need to focus on certain things and not try to do everything all at once all the time. And we talked about that a lot on this show as well. But right now I'm trying to focus on specific projects and see if I can see those things through before I get my mitts in another pot. I got like 12 hands in 12 different pots right now. So trying to narrow down my focus and be like, okay, we're going to work on this one thing. That's been kind of my 30s, has been like learning how to slow down in my process and enjoy the process, because I don't think I really stopped in my 20s to realize like, hey, I'm going to be a published author, and like to enjoy what was happening. And I think I did in a sense, but it all happened really fast and really in a weird way that most people it doesn't happen to in this way.
Yeah.
In terms of how I got the book deal and everything and the publishing cycle, like just kind of wish I would have slowed down a bit more and enjoyed the ride. But I'm trying to do that now, and it's difficult.
Wow. Yeah, it is difficult. I think so for me, 20s versus 30s, I think in my 20s, I felt like I had more possibilities for some reason. I think after you graduate college, you're like, the world is my oyster. You're you kind of come into the world with this naivete and like, I'm going to do all of these things, and you have the energy to do all of those things as well. So you kind of go into it, cuz I remember I was like, I'm going to go into everything fashion that I possibly can think about, and so I googled everything, or googled all fashion events in my city and went to every single one of them for a while and started building and building and building upon that. And I think what's interesting is like, as you go through your 20s versus your 30s and seeing the maturity level, because in your 20s, you're one piece of advice for your 20s, in your 20s, I highly advise do as much as you possibly can. Your 20s are for you to mess up, for you to do things, for you to get out there and be. And especially for Gen Z, because I work with some Gen Z people and I just like I ask them about their lives and maybe they're just not telling me, but they say they go to their 9 to 5 and then they just go home and do nothing and I'm like, "No. This is your time to be alive." And I feel like I really did utilize that as much as I possibly could in my 20s and now I'm trying to see how do I do that in my 30s but also like I have a little bit more responsibility. So how do I do that in an authentic way for me, but also make sure that I'm still kind of progressing in a way? So yeah, I
And
don't
how
know.
to make it sustainable, because I
Yes.
don't think anything in my 20s was sustainable.
No.
And
The
I'm
20s, you're just going on a whim. Like you kind of float with the wind and like things come
mhm.
at you and you just do it. And that's really fun. In your 30s, I think I need a little bit more somewhat of a plan and stability and direction.
And boy, am I tired. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just talk about the level of activity we were doing in our 20s, especially
Mhm.
living in New York City. It's a walkable city, so you're on foot literally
Mhm.
all day, and you're going from point A to B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down the alphabet. And then at the end of the day, you might still take home creative work. I would fall asleep sitting up working on a podcast or writing or,
Mhm.
chasing something, I don't know. Like, I was always on the go, and I was able to do like multiple open mics a night. And now I'm like, no, I'm in bed by 9. Like,
Mhm.
I have to be. And that sounds weird to say, like,
I
it's so
swore.
cliche, but like,
Yeah.
you do slow down. Your body slows down, your aggressiveness when it comes to getting out and doing things slows down, and you just also want your comfort. Like,
Mhm.
you're a lot more, you're able to be more uncomfortable in your 20s, because you're
Mhm.
like, this is what this is. Like, I can live in a warehouse, I can, have 20 roommates. I can, run around town all day and, you
And
know.
just do that. But it's I think in your 30s it's way more focused because you're also learning to have set boundaries cuz in your 20s I think I just did everything. And honestly, I'm still a work in progress of learning that because I literally burnt out last week. I think I literally I love accepting different projects or different gigs or different this and that and I end up burning out and so I'm still on this journey of figuring out okay how do I not how do I say no, you know?
Mm,
And especially because you say yes because in the moment it's kind of like when your friend is asking you, hey, you want to go to this, and it's like 3 weeks from now and you're so excited about it and then that day comes and you're like I don't actually want to do this. It's almost like knowing ahead of time what is for you and what is not for you, you know? Because I think I easily fall into the trap of everything is for me. I must
mm,
do everything. I
mhm,
must appear because especially being like on social media, it's like you get more opportunities the more you're out and about and like keeping that relevancy up. And that's really difficult when you're like, I need a break, you know?
mhm,
And when sometimes it feels like your creativity is rewarded by how much you're like showing up, not based on how much you're resting. And so that is what's really I'm trying to learn how to be uh I guess how to have productivity in my rest, and by that meaning like my rest is productivity, you know, because you can't have you can't just be productive and have the ideas come to you and all those things and differentiate yourself if you are not fully rested because then your brain is scattered and stuff. So
mhm. Do you feel guilty when you rest? Are you weird like me, where I'm like, if I'm not doing something, I'm
mm,
like, something is wrong? Because I was also trained and conditioned
mhm,
that you were working all the time. And even though our work looks different than our parents' work, right?
mhm,
I always felt that I have to be going all the time. And so if there was a day when I didn't have anything in the calendar, I'd be like, am I missing something? Was I supposed to be somewhere? Like, is this okay? Am I
mhm.
allowed to just read today and take a nap? Like, for me, that's still really hard into my 30s, is understanding like you not only like get to have those days, but you like desperately need those days when you're doing nothing
Mhm.
and not feeling guilty or shameful about it, because otherwise you will burn out and you can't be creative when you have no gas in the tank. You just can't.
Yeah. I sometimes I feel guilty. I think I feel guilty more. Yes, I do feel guilty on the creative side. I feel like I don't feel guilty when it comes to like work things.
Right.
You
The
know,
day
I
job
my day job,
piece.
I'm like,
No.
meh, I don't care. I don't need to go to that happy hour. No, don't care. But definitely with creative stuff, because it's like you miss it's like, yeah, you miss something and then you're like, oh, I needed to have been there, you know? I needed to, even though my body is telling me, girl, you need to rest. Like I just went to the doctor, or like this past week I was feeling like my blood was like boiling, so I'm going to the doctor, but I know deep, deep down my body is like, girl, you need to chill out. You do an event every single night of the week, and then you wonder why you're tired on top of like a full time job, on top of like trying to do your creative like outlet of social media and photography. And so I think that it does feel guilty, but I have to remember that there is so much more productivity comes out of that rest, and clarity within my mind, so that way I know for the future, okay, you don't need to go to this doesn't even have anything to do with your creative, who you are, right? And so you don't need to attend that event, right? Like for me, for instance, for me, like I mostly talk about just like life in as a single girl in her 30s who's doing like real estate and fashion and those types of things. I don't need to go to every single event here in Denver, especially when I'm not trying to live here for forever.
Right.
So trying to figure those things out is very different. And I think but I will say there is a different kind of confidence in my 30s, because I did so much in my 20s. I'm like, okay, I'm in a new awakening now. What can I do? Like now that I have a new awakening and I have the confidence because of things I've done in my 20s, okay, what can this 30s look like that's focused and aligned and in tune with my creativity? What is that going to look like?
Mm. I love that you brought up confidence because that's something
Mhm.
I did not have.
Mm.
And I think I was good at hiding it with my personality and
In your
being in
20s?
my 20s. In
Okay.
my 20s
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm.
And like we talked about how like when I got the book deal, I called myself a writer for the first time and I was like, that's such a lie. I'm not a writer because I'm not published and I'm not real. And I had all this imposter syndrome and I would pick apart everything that I did and have something to say about it. But I finally came into my own, um, sheer kind of desperation. I would say my first like real I am confident
Mm.
in my work was at Edinburgh Fringe and getting on
Mm.
stage every day and doing my show every
Yeah, can you
day.
talk about that process? Because I think people on here would be very curious about what to do, what Edinburgh. Actually, tell anybody, because I mean, I bet you there's creatives who don't know. Because I'm a creative, I didn't
Yeah,
know until you told me.
yeah,
So,
it's the biggest arts festival in the world, and it's in Edinburgh, Scotland. It's called Edinburgh Fringe, but there are fringes all over the world. There's a Denver Fringe, there's a LA Fringe, there's a Texas. I mean, there's tons of fringes. They're
hmm,
just independently run arts festivals, and they're focused on theater and individual artists.
hmm,
So in Edinburgh, you can see anything from a fully cast musical to a one-man show to puppetry for kids, um, circus acts, rappers,
hmm.
uh, musicians in the street. The whole city shuts down to become one big festival. And so I went there for the first time in 2019. I was working for a rapper and just random, like in my 20s, I worked for a rapper, and that was one of the odd jobs I had. And he was going to perform his one-man shows, and he said, come and stage manage my shows, and you should take your own show. And I'm like, I don't have a
Own
show. I
show.
don't have a show. Like, I perform, I get on stages, but the most time I'd ever done was 20 minutes for my book launch. I was like, I don't have a show. He's like, "Oh, you don't need a show. Just like submit like the application was due that week." And he was like, "Just submit like a description for the show and a picture." And I was like, "That I can do." And so I submitted this description for a show that did not exist yet for a few months in future to go to this festival. And it's the entire month of August. And
Mm.
most performers choose to do the full run, which means 4 full weeks of performing with maybe one day off in the middle to take a break, maybe go
Mm.
watch shows, go see other
Mhm.
performers. Not everybody is so intense, but they do recommend for your first time to get your feet wet, do a full run, do the whole month of August, your shows.
Mm.
Um, so that summer, I got accepted and I had to write a show, and I didn't know how to do that, but I kind of roughed my way through it and I figured it out as I went along. That's a big thing, and that's a big theme of the 20s is figuring it
Yeah.
out as you go.
Mhm.
I took this one woman show to Scotland. I got on a stage. Whether I had two people in the crowd or 20, I was performing my show every single day. And it was really, really hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I've done it twice now, and it remains, it's just, I don't know how you keep doing it. It's just so hard every single
Yeah,
time.
it's a lot.
Just to have the fortitude to get on stage every day. And
Mhm.
I had put so much into this. I'd never done a one woman show before, and having that confidence to be on stage by myself for an hour.
And basically, if you think about it, you are, if you're the only person on stage, you have to be the full entertainment the entire, how long was it? An hour each?
An
Hour and a,
hour, yeah.
yeah, an hour. So you have to think about your own lighting, your own pacing on the stage, your own, every single type of thing you have to think about on your own, which is fascinating to me.
The lighting, by the way, I'm glad you
Oh.
mentioned that. It was a desk lamp. This was such a low budget show because what they also don't tell you about the first time you go there, if you do the free Fringe Festival, which is what I did because I was broke,
Mhm.
is they put you in a venue. They choose a venue for you. It could be
Mhm.
anything from a cafe to a warehouse, and I was in a warehouse, and all I had was a chair, and I'd come in every day. I'd clean up the space because there'd be beer bottles everywhere. I would put the chairs back in order. I would set up my desk lamp. it
Oh
was
my
it was
god.
our lighting for the venue, and I would turn it on, and then I would start my show. And working with that little of tech requirements, I think it was really good for me
Mm.
because imagine what I can do with more tech, with cool lighting cues. Like I'm still holding out for the day when I get cool stuff like that. I'm still working my way into that.
Mhm.
Having the kind of funds to go into a festival with a full tech spec, you know.
Mhm.
But when you really just get your feet in, you're just like, I have a chair and a desk lamp, and that is all I need.
And here we
And here we
go.
go.
On we go. Okay, you guys, you ready?
Yeah, you've seen both of my
Hmm.
shows.
They're
Um,
phenomenal, by the way. If you ever do them again, we'll link them in the show notes. But you have to see one of Mimi's shows one
yeah,
day.
yeah. It's a real fun thing. And I think that really built my confidence at the end of the festival, as tired as I was, to be like, I did that. And I had no business doing that. I was not, you know, in a space where I felt like I was capable of doing that, and I did it anyway. And
Hmm.
so that was a big theme of my 20s as well, was kind of reaching for these outlandish things, things that maybe people had never heard of. My parents had never heard of Fringe, you know. And I'm like, "Hey, mom, dad, I'm going to Scotland for a month and I'm going to do my show every day and get paid no money
And get
and
paid no
try
money.
to eat food while I'm there." But I basically subsisted on chips and beer. Like I was not taking good care of myself. That's a
Hmm.
big thing too, is
Hmm.
now in my 30s, I'm so much more aware of my health and trying to balance when you're doing these crazy artistic things. Hey, you got to eat food. You got to take care of yourself. You got to drink water, you know,
Hmm.
cuz you're not aware of that kind of stuff in your 20s cuz you have all this energy and all this kind of youth that you don't
Right.
have to worry about it, so
Hmm.
you can just have a bag of chips for dinner, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm still working on that. It's not a perfect science, but I feel it a lot more. I feel my age a lot more, and I know that if there are older people listening to this, you're like 33 is not old.
Yeah, they're like, what are you two talking
And
about?
you're right. You're right about that,
Hmm.
but
It's
you feel it. You start to really feel it.
hmm
And it's different for everybody. I have a chronic illness, and so like I feel things. I feel much older than I actually am because
hmm
of my chronicness.
yeah.
But what is something? Here's a good question. What is something that 30 something you wishes you could have told 20 something you?
That's a wonderful question. I would say my biggest thing would be just go for any and every possible thing that interests you. Just do any if you are interested in something, do it. If you are interested in, I don't know, scuba diving, if you're interested in painting houses, do it. Anything that you have a slight inkling of, I might like that. Absolutely do it. And I think I did for to a certain extent, but I could definitely have done more too. Um, my 20s is very interesting because when I after I worked in corporate for like 4 years, I was like, this sucks. And when I moved to New York, I remember I just got same similar to you. Like when you talked about you just kind of flow with the wind and get jobs as you go. I remember I was actually working for this like event company and we were doing a lot of influencer events and things like that for like these huge influencers. And I knew that that job was kind of ending. And so afterwards I was just networking with people and networking, and I came across this designer, this fashion designer. She was up and coming, and I was like, hey, do you have any openings for you? And she was this like upstate New York, like really rich mom who was just like her dream was to be a fashion designer. And I remember I somehow applied and somehow got the job, and it was actually really eye opening into the fashion world because you for a designer, basically I had to do all of her like on the ground work. So we would go to the places where they're actually sewing all the things together. So she would draw out the designs, and then you actually take it to like this seamstress or people who actually sew. And it was these huge like warehouses full of like tables and people with sewing machines, and they're sewing for all these different types of artists and whatever. And I thought that that was fascinating because I would always have to go pick up certain orders, bring them to different people, bring them around the city. So I'm like carrying cargo in
Oh my god, you're
Ubers.
like Devil Wears
I was
Prada.
literally like Devil Wears Prada. Yeah. My boss at the time, she was great. I thought she was wonderful. And one of our clients was actually Paris Hilton, so I got to deliver something to Paris Hilton's doorstep. That was really fun.
Wow.
Didn't get to meet her, which I was like, damn, okay. But that was it was just really exciting to see something that was so different from what I learned, and almost to live the life of, when you're watching like The Devil Wears Prada or any of these types of movies that kind of are like, what is that life? Like, what could that lifestyle be like? Or if you're watching your favorite, you know, comedian or your favorite some artist or actor or something, I say if that life somehow interests you, explore that because you never know what you're going to learn from it. And that really taught me a lot more about what goes into the fashion industry, what goes into being a designer, also what goes into just like running around the city all the time. I got to know the city very well because I was always in the fashion district and then the theater district and then running up and down and between there. And so it was a very eye-opening time to do something like that because I didn't go to school for that and I got to see it firsthand. And that's another thing I will say, in your 20s versus your 30s, I think while school is important and college is important, I definitely agree with that. But also get hands-on experience.
Mm.
Hands-on, because you're in the classroom, you're learning, but you're not doing the actual work in many cases. So your learning curve is so much steeper when you get out versus if you get to try. Like, I had a friend who DM'd an influencer and was like, hey, do you need an assistant? And boom, she was an assistant for like one of these huge influencers at the time. So she saw the ins and outs of influencing, and then she in turn went on to become a huge influencer because she knew like the ins and outs of what that entails. And so it's getting that hands-on touch tangible experience so that way it could differentiate you, make your art better, whatever it is. You kind of get a better idea of what the industry that you're trying to be in is required of. And so that was really really fun. But yeah, so that would be my piece of advice. And what would
Get
be
hands
yours?
on.
Get hands on. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say love yourself because
Mm,
I just, along with the confidence, my self love was very low. And
mm,
this is also like the whole basis of my second show is like 30 something me talking to 20 something me. And I have a
mm,
lot of thoughts because I went through a lot in my 20s. I went through a lot of hardship, a lot of really hard things, and I just love 20 something me so much, and I wish that she could have seen that because I
mm-hmm,
spent so much time not liking myself and also focusing on the wrong things. I would
mm,
because I didn't love myself, I was looking for someone else to love me, and I was very much like drinking the Kool-Aid of like I must have a partner, I must have a man
mm-hmm,
to love me. And so I spent a lot of time in my 20s chasing men,
mm.
and I think that's relatable for a lot of women. We're taught
Oh,
that we don't
totally.
have any value unless we have a man.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally like kicked that in my 30s and being like, if it happens, it happens. But honestly, no, like I'm not
Yeah.
trying. And same thing with deciding not to have a child. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
decided, I knew in my 20s that I didn't want a kid, but it wasn't until my 30s I really committed and acted upon that because I was like, everyone's been telling me my whole life that I'm going to have a child and I actually don't want one. And
Mm-hmm.
so standing true to that in my 30s has been really empowering.
You should talk about that.
I should talk about that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that deserves maybe a whole episode. I'm not really sure, but you see a lot of your friends, and I saw a lot of my friends in my 20s getting married, starting to have kids. Um, some of them going to grad school, some of them pursuing their careers, but for the most part, a lot of them having families. And so I kind of stuck out. I still stick out like a sore thumb. I'm
Yeah, we
like
both
the
do.
lone ranger over here, like
Mm-hmm.
single, no children, not married, and just having like honoring that and being like, there's nothing wrong with you, and telling 20 something me, there's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect as you are. Keep going. It's going to be hard. It's going to continue to be hard, but you are made of tough stuff and you can handle
Mm-hmm.
it. Because there were just, yeah, so many times I felt like I just can't handle this, and I'm like, no, actually you can. You're pretty badass.
Mm-hmm.
So just having that confidence and self-love, I think in my 20s would have been really cool. But I'm still working on it. It's all still a work in progress,
Yeah.
but I've come a really long way in terms of that.
So, okay, I really want to answer one more question because I think when we talk about self love, everybody says love yourself, love yourself. But what does that actually mean? What does that look like? And in my personal opinion, I think loving yourself means finding out the things that truly light you up without external resources, right? The thing, loving yourself is in terms of you look at your flaws and what nice thing can you say about them, right? It's looking at all aspects of you, whether it's your character. And even if it's your character and you're like, okay, I could develop here, here, and here, but I do like this, and this. How do you make yourself the next level of a better person? And kind of evaluating and assessing all parts of you and learning, okay, I am a human, I am whole, I have flaws, but I am beautiful, I am whatever it is that you need to say in order to believe and start to love yourself, but also spending time with yourself. So I used to go on dates with myself all the time. I need to reinstate that. I would just, if I wanted to do something, I would go do it. Doesn't matter where I live, what city I'm in, going and actually doing whatever it is and spending that time with yourself. Journaling is huge because a lot of the times your brain is putting in, you're thinking about so many things a day. And sometimes you need to take time to have gratitude for who it is that you are, figuring out what your essence is, what your aura is, what your energy is, even your nervous system, and like learning to calm your nervous system so that way you're not like dependent on somebody else for your nervous
Yeah, the
system.
things that you need,
Right.
like to grow as a person, should not come from another person.
Yeah.
And that should only be the cherry on top of a fully full person. I hate the like my better half. Like you're not half a person. You're
Yeah.
100% a person
No.
on your own. And I think that that gets lost along the way when you add a relationship into the mix. And we'll speak about that, I think, on a separate episode about
Yeah.
dating and what can happen when you give yourself over to someone else's needs and wants, which is totally happens in relationships, but how that can kind of hurt your flow. So we'll have another episode about that, but I think the main thing that I'm hearing in this episode is like building confidence in your 20s, going out and doing it, taking risks, messing up, being a beginner, getting hands-on experience, and having grace for yourself when you're like, hey, this is hard. It's supposed to be hard. I think I don't know how we got the sense that being in your 20s, maybe it was just Hollywood was like 20s is like this sunshine rainbow, so like everything's going your way. I'm like, my 20s could not be further from the truth. Everything went wrong most of the time, and that was okay because I learned a lot of things from those mistakes and from those challenges. So it's not what everybody makes it out to be, but it can be so much more than you think it could be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, should we wrap here?
We shall wrap. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next episode. This has been Girls Next Pork.
Girls
Catch you
Next
later.
Pork. Bye.